culture. Classic pop culture.
Hi everybody, this is Steve Ludwig, host of Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture and the Beatles Hour with Steve Ludwig at planetludwig.com. Here's an interview we did with actress Karolyn GRIMES on December 17th, 2013. It's from show number 20. To hear the entire show, check out the menu at planetludwig.com. And now, please enjoy the interview. And our guest right now is one of the most beloved actresses in cinema history. She played one of the most beloved characters, Zuzu, in It's a Wonderful Life, and she has many other pictures to her credit as well. Our guest right now, Miss Karolyn GRIMES. Miss GRIMES, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Well, thank you, and that was a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Well, you're quite welcome. Thank you so much for your for all the joy you've brought so many of us. I'd like to tell our listeners, first of all, you have a great website, zuzu.net, zuzu.net. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, too. There are so many great merchandise items and things like that. But let's, if you don't mind, let's start at the beginning. We're going to talk about some of your other films, but how were you chosen for the part of Zuzu in It's a Wonderful Life?
Well, back in the day, we all had the same agent, and pretty much all the kids in Hollywood had the same agent. Her name was Lola Moore, and all the kids in the movie certainly had Lola Moore as an agent. Mm-hmm. And so she, I guess, thought I'd make a good candidate for the part of Zuzu, so she sent me on an interview, and I talked to Mr. Capra, the casting director, and it was kind of a one-on-one interview, and I got the part.
Lucky for all of us, I'll tell you.
Well, lucky for me.
Lucky all around, there, okay?
I kind of think there's some divine guidance in there somewhere.
All right. Well, yeah, especially with It's a Wonderful Life, especially with that movie.
That's my point. Yes.
Yeah.
I think there was a hand other than Frank Capra and mine in there.
Mm-hmm. The movie is so beloved, and your character is so beloved. How does it? Obviously, it makes you feel great, but sometimes you sit back and say to yourself, "I was Zuzu, and It's a Wonderful Life."
Not really.
Okay.
I'm so used to being that little girl, and, people call me Zuzu, they say, hi, Zuzu. I mean, it's just a part of my makeup. It's a part of who I am, and so I really don't think of that. But very often, after an appearance or after I talk to someone who has shared with me one of their, really tearing stories and emotional feelings with me, I say to myself, thank you. I'm so grateful to have been that little girl.
Mm. I mean, you worked with so many great actors and actresses, John Wayne, Cary Grant, Bing Crosby, Betty Grable, and, of course, Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. What was Mr. Stewart like?
Well, Mr. Stewart was very tall. He was 6'4".
Yeah, okay.
And I'm always on his back or in his arms, and he just seemed like he was taller than God, and I was always looking down, but he was a very, very gentle man, and he was kind, and he had a lot of patience. And throughout the years, he actually had people looking for whatever happened to Zuzu, and he found me, and that worked out really well because then we became friends again as adults. So, I was an adult. And so that was really a blessing for me in many, many ways.
Yeah. I read on your website, which once again, everyone, is zuzu.net, zuzu.net, and in your biography, you tell us that you didn't have such a wonderful life your whole life, and that you use that, or maybe those hardships, as a way of giving hope to people that you speak with. Could we talk about that just for 1 minute? How
Sure.
you've come back from some diversity, and maybe you can share that with our audience, whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
That'd be fine. Well, I was orphaned at the age of 15. My mother started getting sick when I was 8, so my career kind of started sliding because you need a pushy stage mother to keep you going. because, maybe you're not so motivated as a child. And so when she started getting ill, my career started sliding. And then she finally died when I was 14. And then my father got killed in an automobile accident when I was 15. So the port in Hollywood shipped me to a little town in Missouri. And it was a huge culture shock. I had gone to L.A. High. There were 900 kids in my class alone. In the whole town that I ended up in, there were 800 people. So it was a farming community. It was a whole different world. And I really thought I'd gone to hell for a year.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But then in the end, I ended up in a very, very rough home. I lived with my father's brother and his extremely weird and mean wife. And so people knew the situation that I was in, the local people in the little town. And so for me, it was an opportunity to learn what real people were about. So I did, because they gave me a lot of love, support, and they were genuine, caring folks. And I learned so much about the reality of real people. And you don't kind of find that in L.A. Everyone is kind of artificial, superficial, and guarded, and it's a dog-eat-dog world, and a lot of greed and so forth. Whereas in the smaller communities, in other areas of the country, it's caring about each other, and it's a whole different philosophy of life, and certainly follows the movie It's a Wonderful Life. So I just benefited a whole lot from that. And so instead of going back to Hollywood, I got an education. I became a medical technologist. And so then a lot of other things happened to me in my life, and I just kept drawing from the well of It's a Wonderful Life, and that was that each man's life touches another. And I sort of think that I had to experience a lot of the adversities in my life. I lost 2 husbands. I had an 18-year-old son who committed suicide. There are just so many things, ironically, isn't it? But yes. I feel like when people share their stories with me about how they've been through so much pain and they're in such pain, somehow there's some comfort in knowing that someone else has been in their shoes and understands that pain. So I sort of look at being Zuzu as sort of kind of a mission, because I think maybe I was supposed to walk that path so I would learn compassion and understanding and, that kind of knowledge to be able to help people.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing that part of your life with us. And I guess when people such as us of a certain age, I don't know if this happens to you, but every once in a while when I get down on humanity, quote unquote, something great and beautiful happens, and you say to yourself, you know what? There is hope for all of us. Do you find that? I mean, after all you've been through, it's always nice to know that, you know what, there are good people in this world. And you just hear about the bad people, unfortunately.
Yes, I think that's very true, because that's where, for some reason, other people like hearing about that.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm a hypocrite. I shouldn't even have brought it up.
Hearing about good people are boring or something.
Yeah. Well, look at the nightly news, right? But
yeah, it's all gloom and doom, and
and I'm such a hypocrite for bringing it up, and I apologize. But my point was that you have such a happy ending. I mean, you've brought so much joy to people by once again going out and kind of being like an ambassador for the movie.
Well, an unofficial ambassador for the film, that's for sure. But no one's trials and tribulations ever really end. It's a continuing story. It's just one that hasn't been written yet.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
the adversities are still coming on real strong, and it just gives me more credibility to talk to people who have and are going through the same sort of situations that I have experienced.
Well, I'll tell you, by visiting your website, Zuzu.net, fans will see so many wonderful things that they can purchase. I mean, you have a book that I thought would be really a great book was Zuzu's Wonderful Life in the Movies, which is kind of a history of your cinema
My
career.
experiences that I had working with some of the biggest movie legends of all time. I talk about them and my experiences in the movies I was in with them. I was in 16 movies, and I really did get this opportunity to work with so many people, and it was wonderful. And yet, for 6 minutes of film footage, and that's all I was in. It's a Wonderful Life. 6 minutes. My pedals were in the movie longer than I was. I have like a second career, so the book was written because we wanted people to know that I had been in other movies besides just It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm. Besides It's a Wonderful Life, what was one of your favorite movies that you were in?
Oh, The Bishop's Wife. Cary Grant,
yes.
David Niven, and Loretta Young.
Mm-hmm.
Stellar movie.
How was, I always liked Hans Christian Andersen. What was Danny Kaye like to work with? Next question.
Next question.
Okay. So, getting back to The Bishop's Wife. No.
Yes. Ask me about Cary Grant. He was magnificent. He was
yes, tell me about Cary Grant.
Oh, he was just marvelous. He loved kids. And so he would tell me stories, read me stories, and he would, there really was an ice skating rink on the stage. And he would go practice his ice skating every day at lunch, and he'd come get me and pull me around on a sled, and that's how he'd practice his ice skating. It was so fun. He was
nice.
just a really delight to be around. Loretta Young, in her later years, exchanged prayers. She thought I needed prayers a lot, so she sent me prayers all the time. She was a devout Catholic, and these things, they're beautiful memories. And that was my second favorite film. It was just really a wonderful movie.
I loved, on your website again, once again, everyone at Zuzu.net. You have such great memorabilia, too. The posters are great. You have so many wonderful Christmas ornaments on there. Listeners, when you get a chance, visit Zuzu.net. There's so many other things to the website, too, but the merchandise is the autographed photos are wonderful. What was Donna Reed like?
Well, it's a funny thing. I get asked that a whole lot, and sometimes if I'm really busy, I'll just say she was very nice. But really and truly, in that movie, she and I never really had any interaction at all. We might have been in the same scene, but I'm always in his arms with him, and the chemistry between he and I is what I remember. I never really had any lines with her or, connected with her at all. So, but the littlest boy in the movie, little Tommy, the kid that burped, Jimmy Hawkins, he went on to be Shelley Fabre's boyfriend on the Donna Reed show, and he and Shelley Fabre both said that she was like a second mom to them. So I know she was a lovely, lovely person.
Yeah. I remember seeing an interview with Mary Badham. She played Scout in... with Gregory Peck.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird. And she said that Gregory Peck was almost like a second father to her, on the set at least. Did you feel that way about Jimmy Stewart, or was it more of a professional type of... he's obviously a nice man, but...
No, I actually did. I think he worked to develop a chemistry between us. I really do. And it worked. He was a very gentle soul, and he really did, try to develop a relationship. And it was really kind of like a father. And I have had a lot of famous parents. Bing Crosby and Betty Grable. I've had a lot of famous parents. But he really did work at it, I think.
It's always nice to learn that someone who comes across, like Mr. Jimmy Stewart, as a nice person is a nice person. And
yes.
How did you feel when you first started? Before, by the way, you mentioned that it's, you're only on screen for 6 minutes, but obviously it's quality, not quantity, that counts, because your character of Zuzu and the job you did is just, it's not only an inspiration to us all, but it's just such a wonderful part of our being. And if I
Well,
can
I
speak
think that
to
was
any of the...
Frank Capra.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Frank Capra. How was he to work with, being you brought him up?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. He
Yeah.
could get down on his knees and look at us eye level and tell us what he wanted. He was really great, but that's his magic. That was all Frank Capra's mystique. He was so good at developing characters and getting them to do what he wanted them to.
In my other life, I'm an 8th grade teacher, and I remember speaking with you at the convention, and you were saying that some schools actually won't allow It's a Wonderful Life to be played, public schools anyway, to be played in school. Isn't that a shame because of the religious aspect?
Yes, it's very much a shame. I think it's actually devastating in a lot of ways, because not all public schools are that way, but there are very, very many of them that will not allow it to be played in their school. Because I've had teachers write to me and, complain that, they feel so bad because they used to show it to their classes.
Yeah.
But they no longer are able to do that. So somewhere we've lost the desire to teach our children values and morals, and there's something wrong with that whole picture.
I agree with you so much, Miss Grimes. I mean, I'm lucky our school allows it, but even from an historical point of view, I don't see why it's not allowed. It doesn't have to be from the religious aspect of it, but that's, the kids can watch it.
It was never meant to be a Christmas movie. It really isn't meant to be a religious movie. I mean, so we've got an angel, so we've got heaven. But there's no, there's people who write to me all the time and say, I'm not a religious person at all, and I love this movie. And, there's just so many people. I have Jewish people who write to me and they say, I love this movie and I'm Jewish. Well, but, there's nothing in there that's going to be any way invasive of your religion, because it was never meant to be a Christmas movie.
It's a movie of humanity, I think, more than anything else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Capra was famous for making movies like that. They called him Capricorn.
Yeah. I've heard that. You want to tell the audience why he was called Capricorn sometimes? I had read that. I forget where.
Well, his movies were sentimental and corny. The critics felt like they were sentimental and corny and family-oriented, and they just thought they were corny. So, one thing I'd like to point out, and It's a Wonderful Life, when Harry Bailey and his new wife get off the train to meet George and Uncle Billy, his new wife walks right over to a popcorn machine and starts eating popcorn with her white gloves on. Now, that's Frank Capra's message to the critics, saying, yes, this is another Capricorn movie.
Wow. I'm glad you mentioned that. That is something to look for the next time. And since when did corny movies become a bad thing? That's what I want to know.
Well, back then, I'm not sure, that's just, maybe the critics wanted to be entertained in other ways. Who knows?
Yeah, well, the heck with them. we viewers are the critics, and we love your performance and all you've done for us in the movie. Do you ever get tired of reciting your famous line?
Never.
Could I impose upon you as we say goodbye?
All right.
Could you give us that line?
Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
I have goosebumps just now. I really do.
Good. Good.
Well, Miss Grimes, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us. And you mean so much. Your character, Zuzu, means so much. And the way you've lived your life from all of your adversity means so much to so many of us. And I want to thank you so much for coming on with us. And you are a treasure to all of us who love movies. And thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. And do have happy holidays.
Same to you. Thank you so much. Bye now.